All right. Good morning once again. Thank you for joining.
Good morning, sir.
All right. So, a quick recap on what we did last time before we take off from there. In our last class, we discussed on the introduction to HTML, general introduction to HTML. So, talk about general introduction to HTML, where I told us that HTML is one of the front-end web development language, which is only good for marking up your website structure. I hope you still remember that. And then I took time to break it down, what we mean by marking out your web structure, because we defined it as a markup language, which means that the HTML defines the structure of your website. And how does it achieve that? It uses building blocks, which I describe as tags. And I also took my time to break the tag structure up for you, where I told us that a majority or 95% of these building blocks, which are called the tags, has the opening section, the closing section, and the space between the opening and the closing section is known as the contents part of the tag, which simply means that whatever you have in between the closing and the opening tag is what the tag will display via a browser to the end users. I hope you are still with me. Hello, are you still here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically that is what we did. So we also learned how to start a project, where I took us through how you can create a folder, how you can call the folder to your development environments, like
Yes,
your
sir.
Visual Studio Code, and then how you can activate the HTML embedded shortcode, which constitutes the structure that we can expand. I believe that's
Yes, sir.
what we covered in that section. And then bringing us to the development environment, this was exactly what we coded, right? So we are able to activate the HTML simple file structure, and we are able to start discussing tags. Talk about the heading tag, which ranges from
Yes.
H1 to H6. And I told us that this set of
The
tags, they are basically
no, no. First of all, you talk about the title.
go with the title.
Where
Yeah,
where you write about welcome to digital or
yeah,
as the title.
yeah.
Then after that, before the tag for the
The
H1 to H6.
tag. Yes, you are correct. So all of these, they are called tags. So it means that it was under tags discussion that we talk about the title, because the title itself,
Yes.
the tag is the tag. In fact, I told
Yes.
you that all the write-up, the keywords enveloped in this angle bracket, they are
Yes, sir.
referred to as what? Tag. And one thing that I told us we should take home when understanding tag is that the tag will not be shown on the browser. It is only the contents. Whatever you have inside the angle brackets will not be displayed to users. I believe you understood that. I
Yes,
explained
sir.
that. Good. And then I also talk about how you can check your development locally, depending on when you are going to launch the website on the internet for everyone to see. That is where I talk about you installing an extension called what? Live
Life,
Server.
life saver.
Good, in order for you to be able to use it to view or to render your code via browser. And I said to do that, you simply right click within your HTML file and then click on whatever extension you have installed. So in my own case, I installed a 5 server, and I also said that there is a live server that can help you to continually updating your HTML code or your entire code via the browser without us having to be refreshing every now and then. Right? So this was the front end. This is what the users we see that we have developed so far. So we generated this with the heading tag, we generated this
Yeah.
with the p tag, and then we generated this with the image tag, which means that we have discussed three different what? Main tags.
Tag.
Good. And I said in this section, I will be focusing on introducing you to CSS because I said we will be learning two languages at the same time. Out of the three front-end languages we are to look at, we are going to be learning HTML and CSS together because that is the best way I feel that a learner can understand it, because HTML is for creating the content, while CSS is for uh, styling them to make them look appealing to the user, to make them look presentable, to make those content look readable. So if you are just learning the HTML without learning the CSS, sometimes you may not really understand how these two languages are coming together for you to develop the user's end. All right, so that is us to remember. We also talk about comments. Hope you still remember. We talk about comments in programming, where I said comments are statements which are only good for, explaining our code to third party, that is even to yourself. And if you check all these lines that I'm highlighting, they are all comment lines. I hope you still remember that. And remember the
Yes, sir.
steps on how to create comments. I told us that to create comments, all you need to do is to hold down the control button and press the forward slash. That is how to create comments. All right, because I'm going to be using comment to continue my explanation. So
Sorry, sir. Come again in that part. Sorry.
I said comments. Comments are used for code explanation. In other words, is a way of telling the programming language that do not bother yourself about interpreting this section of my code. It's just a narration. And I said to achieve that in HTML, you hold down the control button and press the forward slash. That is how to create what? Comment. I hope that is taken.
Yes, sir.
All right, so and I also gave you an assignment. I asked you to update your web page to this, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you done that?
Not completely, but I was on it. But I haven't really been feeling for a very long time now. So I was just so that was why I couldn't really complete it.
You said you have.
I said I've done part of it, but not full.
Okay.
Um, I wasn't feeling fine throughout the week.
Okay. So can I quickly see that part that you have done? You can share your screen now. Let me see it. Hope it's ready.
Okay.
And I hope you have installed the Office against tomorrow's class.
I couldn't really go out throughout the week. Like I said, I was sick.
So just try and see if you can, so that you will not be lacking behind. Okay, so this is
So
the only thing you
you
have
say,
done, right? Which is you have only applied the heading. So you are here to apply paragraph and image tag.
yes, sir.
So please make sure that you update that, including what we are going to learn in this section
Yeah,
before.
I'll try and do. I'll try and yes, sir. I'll try and do that.
All right, so you can stop sharing. Let's proceed.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we are looking at general introduction to CSS. General introduction to CSS. So let's start with the definition of CSS as part of the front-end languages you need to understand if you are going to create an appealing and users-friendly web pages. You need CSS. So let's start with the full meaning of the CSS. What is the full meaning of CSS? The full meaning of CSS is cascade. Cascading style sheets. That is the full meaning of CSS. Cascading rather, style sheets. And how do we define it? CSS is a styling language. I hope you are taking note. CSS is a
Yeah.
styling language used to control the layout and the appearance of a web page. Let me take it again. CSS is a styling language used to control the layouts and the appearance of web pages. So the two keywords there, controlling layouts. These are the two keywords. Controlling layouts and appearance of web pages. So these are the two keywords that we need to understand before we can actually know what this language is used for when it comes to web development. So I'm going to break it down. Let me take us to the front end to explain the layout. So the layout is simply mean the structure, the structure. Remember that the HTML content. Remember that the HTML content the HTML language create the content without emphasizing on how these content are placed or arranged within your website. So HTML does not take care of that. Just as you can see on the screen, what the HTML has done is just to simply display them like this, without considering the fact that this particular header is supposed to be at the center, without considering the fact that this color might not be the company color, maybe the company color is red, without also considering the fact that this size might be too big or is too small. Likewise to this image, whether the image is too small or is too big. So which means that the HTML is not or was not primarily intended to determine how this content that it creates should be arranged within your web page. So that is where you need CSS. To CSS is coming to collaborate. It's coming to take it further from where the HTML stop. So HTML responsibility is just to publish the content, while the CSS comes in to fine-tune the display, the arrangement, the appearance of those content, so that at the end of the day, your website will be user friendly. A website that is not user friendly, that is a website that will demarket the organization instead of promoting the
The
organization.
organization.
Yes, so don't forget, I told us from day one that websites, where we are developing websites as professionals, we should always design with the mindset of it's a marketing tool. It's one of the digital marketing tool. So which means that the person we are building the website for, we should understand that he wants to use it to promote or to market his or her products. So for that reason, we must ensure that the content are user friendly. That's
Friendly.
where you are bringing CSS. But if I ask you now, for example, to know whether there is need for us to learn CSS, looking at what I have on the screen, if you
Yes,
pay
ma'am.
somebody, let's just say 200,000, and the person build a website and tell you that the website is live, and you log in, you see something like this. I'm asking you, will you like it? You will not,
No.
because number one, there are still a lot of things we need to add. And again,
Yes.
the content are not properly organized. So that is
Organized.
where you bring CSS in place. So I just want us to know, when we said CSS is cascading style sheets language. In other words, it is a language, it's not a core programming language, just like the HTML, but it is a core, sorry, it is a programming language. It might not be a core programming language, but it is a programming language because you deal with writing of code, right? Now the code we write with CSS, they are just to fine-tune, to enhance the appearance of those content. So I believe that point is taken. Two key things to take away there: CSS define the arrangement, the presentation, like the layout, and also the appearance of the content. I hope that point is taken.
So,
So
yes.
just to add to it, a brief note, just to add to it, so just write, it is used in conjunction with HTML, so that you don't think that you can just open a page and start writing CSS without, writing HTML. So it is used in conjunction with HTML, all right, to create visually and users friendly website. It is used in conjunction. What does that tell you and I? It means that there can never be CSS without what? HTML. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, like they work hand in hand.
Yes, you cannot even think of writing CSS code where you have not created content. And the language that is responsible for creating this content is the HTML. So you can see the reason why I did not start with CSS. I make sure
Yes,
that
sir.
we have some content created in our last section before we are talking about what? CSS. Because CSS is coming in just to determine the appearance of what has been developed with the HTML. All right, so let's quickly discuss some of the key features of CSS quickly. Let's look at some of the key features of CSS. Hope you are taking note. Some of the
Yes.
key features of uh, CSS. Number one, I'm starting with the styling. Number one, the styling. When we say feature, we are talking about the characteristics, the attributes, what makes that thing what it is. The first one we are looking at is styling. Styling. So what do we mean by styling? CSS is used to add styles. The style here means design to HTML elements. It's used to add styles to HTML elements, such as color. So part of the style, we can add one, color, like I pointed out before. We can change that particular content, this header, we can change the color with CSS. We can such as color, font size, and the rest of them. So once you want to change any of this, then you need what?
CSS.
CSS. So that is the styling feature of it. One of the things it can do, it can change the color, it can change the size of your content. Then the second key feature I want to explain is the layouts. The layouts. So what do we mean by CSS having a feature called layout? The layout means CSS is used to control. It's used to control the layout of web pages, like I've explained before, the arrangements, how you want things to be arranged, how you want things to be presented to the what? To the users in a way that it will be friendly. You see, that layout aspect is one of the most critical aspects of web development. How you can use CSS to present your content, to position them in.
This is to control.
Yes, yeah, to control. Are you with me? To control the layout of web pages. Okay, so what I'm saying is that one of the most challenging parts of web development is ability to ability to determine the arrangements of your content. You know, some of us do not know that you need to prioritize what comes first, followed by what. There's a way you arrange your item in a web page. Instead of encouraging someone to continue reading the content, it will end up what? Discouraging the person from reading the content, because your website is expected to be very simple, not to be complex. Somebody should be able to visit your website at a glance. He should be able to what? To get the message without having to be on that website for 1 hour before he or she understand what are these people into. That could occur because of the developer did not prioritize the layout. What should come first? What should follow? Now, the next key feature of CSS is responsive design. Responsive design. I hope you are with me.
Yes,
Responsive
sir.
what? Design. Responsive design. So what do we mean by CSS having this as a key feature? Responsive design means CSS is used to create responsive design that adapts, that adapts, that adapts, are you with me, to different screen sizes, different screen what? Sizes. Now, let me break some of these keywords down. When we say responsiveness of a website is different from interactivity of a website. Responsiveness of a website is talking about the ability of your website to adjust to the size of different what? Screen resolution. Did you get that? Ability
Yes,
of
sir.
website to adjust to different what? Devices, what? Screen sizes. For example, let me take us to the front end. And remember when I was explaining the HTML default structure, when I explained this line, I told her that this line only enforces laptop and tablet what? Responsiveness. So what we are saying is that if somebody open this website with a mobile phone, there is every possibility that the content will not be well arranged the way they were designed. They might scatter. The image might just be showing half of it instead of the entire image. Because at that point, that device will be complaining that this particular size is too small for me to display everything. Instead of you as a developer to have programmed it in a way that if it comes on mobile phone, the image should contrast itself to display the full size. That is a responsiveness. So ability of those content to adjust across different screen resolution is what we call responsiveness. For example,
screen size.
yes, so if I come to the front end now, you can see that everything is arranged the way we develop it. So if I right click, this is how you can check as you are developing whether an element you have designed is responsive or not. So just view it, view the user end. Sorry. View the user end and then right click and select inspect. Right click and select inspect. So from inspect, you see what happened. Can you see what I'm seeing here? Some things are cut off. Can you see it? I hope you are seeing my screen. This is the mobile view of this. This picture, you can see that part of it is not showing.
Yes, sir.
So this is not a professional way of building websites. That is why we are going to learn what we call media query and also Bootstrap as a library that enforces all devices responsiveness. So you can see you have to check. Now, this is mobile view. Now, if I want to toggle between other devices to check how it's going to display, you click on this icon, which is already on it. You click on this icon, and then you now come here and begin to check different devices. So which means we are saying that for somebody using iPhone 12 Pro, how will the person view my website? Can you see how is viewed? What is this space? Instead of it to have distributed it to the end, you can see the way everything is on one side. So these are things you should always watch out for when you are developing websites. So I want to take it from the mobile view to the laptop view. You click here and that comes back. So when we said CSS has an attribute called responsive design, it means that it can be used to make your website responsive. I hope that is clear. Is that clear? Because I want to get a response. Is that clear? You are muted. All right, so I assume that everything is okay. So peradventure, something is not clear to you, kindly feel free to use the reaction button, or you unmute and say something. From there, I will know that something is not all right. So let's quickly talk about the basic CSS concept as our next topic. Basic CSS concepts. Are you still here? The basic CSS concept. Are you here? Okay. So let's talk about the basic CSS concepts. So what do we mean by basic CSS concept? These are some common words, common terms that you will hear CSS speakers using. HTML has its own familiar terms. When you are writing with HTML, some of the terms that will be commonly used will be tags. That is HTML language, tags, attribute, tags, elements. These are key terms for speaking HTML. Now, when you are in CSS, there are also some terms which denote their meaning that we need to understand. Number one is selector. Under the CSS basic concept, the first one I want to explain is called selector. So why I am taking my time to establish this, because the practical aspects will not actually take time if you understand all this. So now, the selectors. So what do we mean by selector or selector? Right. Selectors are used to target specific HTML elements. I hope you are taking note of that. Selectors are used to target specific HTML elements. So what we are practically saying here is this. We are going to create a CSS file separately, and we will be speaking.
I used to target
They are used to
specific.
target specific HTML elements. Okay, so what we are saying is that we are going to write our CSS code somewhere else, and we'll have our HTML content already written here, which is a separate file. Now, how can you in CSS, while you are in CSS, how will you be able to specify which of these elements you are actually styling or you want to style? Because you have H1 as one of the HTML elements. You also have the paragraph as another element. You have image as another element. And you are not going to style all of them at the same time. You are going to be selecting. See, that is where the word selector comes from. You are going to be selecting. You are going to be selecting. That is, in my CSS, I am going to select H1 by its name or with its name. I'm going to select word p tag. That is how I will know, that is how CSS will know which one is to style. For example, before we go into that section properly, let's assume that I'm styling this. You understand this in a moment. Now, I want to give this H1 color. The content this H1 is producing, I want to color it. I want to color it. Are you with me? I
Yes, sir.
want to give it red because right now is black. Now, the question is that this is where you want to write your CSS. So I will say H1. You see, that is the selector. Go back to the definition. That say what? CSS selectors, they are used to target
Target
HTML.
specific
So now, good.
HA,
So now I have targeted what? HTML element, which is what? H1.
H1. You have mute your this thing.
Okay, so like I was saying, you can see that uh, you can see this is just like the way I explained to you. HTML tag comes with what? Angle bracket. This is the symbol. This is
Yes.
another symbol now. This symbol is called coiling what? Braces or coiling
Calling
bracket. Coiling braces. SBRACES. Coiling what? Braces. Or we call it what? Coiling brackets. That is the notation of writing CSS properties in a block. So which means that that particular calling bracket is referred to as the CSS declaration block. CSS declaration block, which means is a kind of string that is used to hold, to group the properties. For example, now we want to give this particular text red color, right? So once you have created the CSS structure, that is CSS code structure implies that there should be a selector, which is a way of you targeting a specific HTML element. In this case, out of H1, out of p tag, out of image, we are targeting which element? Can you speak? Which element are you targeting between
yes.
and this? Which one are you targeting?
H1.
Good. So if I want to target p tag, I'll put what? P here. If I want to target
P
image, I'll put what?
P image.
IMG. Good. Right. Now you are following. Now, inside that calling braces, you will now declare two things. One, the CSS property name. So just like the way you understand HTML tags, now you know that there is an image tag for adding images. You know that there are heading tags, H1 to H6 for adding what? Heading. In CSS, and you also claim that you can speak CSS, it then means that you also know CSS properties. CSS property. For every appearance you want to define, there is a property for it. So the volume of these properties that you know determines the level of appearance you can give to your what? Your content. So for example, I want to color a write-up. So I need to know, oh, which CSS property does that? So I'll say, okay, color. I'll type color. You see, as soon as you type color, just like the way you were typing those tags and they were coming out.
Yeah.
Now, all this color you are seeing, all these inbuts that are coming out, they are coming out because you activated what? This style tag. So this style tag is used to speak CSS in HTML. That is, you are writing CSS file inside what? HTML. But how do you differentiate it? How do you initiate it? You open this style tag. So whatever you are writing inside sees as what? CSS. So now you select color. That is the property. So this section now from here is the property. Why what's after the column is called value. So CSS property come in pairs. We have the name, the property name side, which is separated with the column. And then we have the value side, which is ended with semicolon, as you can see. So the value will be now with what color, the actual color I want, which is what? Red. So if I go to the front end now, you see that what? The color has changed. Do you understand that?
Yes, yes, sir.
So I want you to share your screen, and that particular one that header that you have created, I want you to give it color red quickly. Share your screen.
So, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
So, where should I put the star? Is it up here?
Yes, that is where to put it.
Should I just go ahead and write star like this?
No, just press enter. Create or space. Press enter. No, I shouldn't write this with capital letter, please.
Okay.
Oh yeah, just go ahead and write the style. Just press enter. Once you see it coming out, you press enter on your keyboard to give you the good.
Okay.
Now press enter to open it up because you want to group some properties inside. Press enter. Press enter so that you go down. Okay, now Oya, declare your selector first. You are selecting H1. No, you have not called the selector. You see that
Yes,
why
sir.
it was not bringing out the property. Then you open that coiling brass that I showed you. You use shift and there's a button, I believe you know it. Shift and there's a button after P. Coil it, locate it on your keyboard. You see where they put it. Hold down the shift key and press it.
Shift and what?
Check your keyboard. That coiling bracket, you see the symbol of it on your keyboard. Shift and press where you can find it. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, that means you are not familiar with the keyboard. Now, if you hold down
No.
the shift key, if you hold down the shift key after letter P, the next button, after letter P, hold down
Okay, okay.
button.
Yes.
You have to start getting used to
Seen
it.
it.
Good. Then press enter to open it up.
Yes. Okay.
Press enter to open it up. Now call the property color. Call the property color. Once you see coming out, you press enter. You don't need to write it in full. That is how you can make your code writing faster. Now call the color name. All right. So now let's view it. Let's view the front end and see the impact. Let's view the front end and see the impact. So you can see that it has not updated. Why? Go
No.
back, go back, go back. Go back to your coding environment. I want to show you something. Now, if you look at where you have index.html, can you see something like a white cycle?
Yes.
Why you are seeing that thing, it means that that particular file has not been saved. And if it is not saved, the browser will not acknowledge it. So what you do is that the only way it will have reflected is for you to refresh the page. But to solve this issue, go to File, click on File, click on File tab. Let's program it to be saving automatically henceforth. Now, click
Okay.
on Auto Save. You should see a place, Auto Save. Is there nothing called Auto Save? Go down, I can see it, Auto Save. Auto save. No, you have passed it. Auto save.
Okay.
Yes. Now, once you have clicked here, anytime you can see that that circular white icon has gone, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, go back to the front end, and I hope you have installed your live server.
Yes, sir.
You can see that automatically now. So these are
That's
some of
changed.
the things we should take note of. Anytime you are writing code, in fact, it's not going to happen again except another laptop because you have already programmed it that anytime you launch that application, whatever you write will be saving automatically.
Automatically.
All right, so let's continue. I just want you to have that and some practical before we move forward. All right, so
Thank.
I'm still trying to.
Should I stop?
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's
Go.
stop sharing.
Yes, stop sharing. Let's go back to the class. Now, that settles the three. Remember that I was talking about what? The basic what?
Select.
CSS concepts, right? And I've
Yes, sir.
mentioned what? Selector. So now you
Yes, sir.
understand what selector is, right?
Yes, sir.
Now let's look at the second one, which is the property. Properties. Properties. So properties are used to define the styles. Hope you are writing. Properties are used to define the styles applied to selected elements. Properties are used to define the style applied to selected elements. Applied to selected elements. Did you get that? So if
Yes,
I
sir.
may just take you back, this is the property. The color is the property.
Yes, sir.
The H1 is the what? The selector. Now, the next one, which is the last one under the CSS basic concept, is the value. 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 So what is the value? Values are used to specify the value of a property. Value are used to specify the value of a property. Did you understand that? The value of a property. Am I communicating?
Yes, sir.
Value of what?
A
A
property.
property. Good. What we are saying is that, let me take you back to the CSS section. This red is what? Is the value,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Why this color is the what? The property itself. Hope you get that.
Yes, sir.
So to summarize everything before we move to the next topic is for you to know that the CSS structure, the CSS syntax the CSS syntax constitute what? Three things. One, the HTML, the CSS selector. Two, the CSS property. Three,
Properties. The
CSS
value.
what? Value. Exactly. Just
Yes,
like
sir.
we established that HTML has opening tag, content section, closing tag. Now CSS has what? Selector set section, property section. Now, but one thing you should take home is that the the properties and the value, they are wrapped inside what? The calling what? Brackets. It
Bracket.
is the only the selector that is declared before the bracket. Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now let's quickly look at the next thing. I don't want to talk about the benefit of CSS. From what I've explained from the beginning to this moment, I believe you know that there are huge benefits of what? Writing CSS.
CSS.
So you cannot just be creating HTML content without considering the CSS. So let's quickly look at methods of adding CSS. That is the next topic. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Method of adding CSS. Method of adding CSS. Method of adding what? CSS.
CSS.
So what are we talking about here? What we are simply saying is that what are the various or different ways of communicating CSS to the element? So this is like the HTML element. This is CSS. How does this CSS talk to this element? There are different ways this CSS can select this element. There are different ways the CSS can talk to, can relate with this element. That is what we want to talk about. This very one that I've used is one of them, but I did not define it because I only use it for illustration. So I will assume that we are just starting that. So, right, there are three main methods. Let me clear this comment so that I can create. So the topic is what? Methods of what? Adding CSS to HTML elements. Are you with me? Method
Yes, sir.
of adding CSS to what? HTML element. So the very first one we want to look at is inner CSS. The first one is inner. Inner what? CSS addition. So what does this mean practically? When you say inner what? CSS addition, what does this mean? Now, right, adding CSS style directly to HTML elements using style attributes, using style attributes, using style what? Attributes.
Adding CSS style.
Adding CSS style directly to an HTML element using style attributes, using style attributes. Now, I want to believe that in our last class, I have explained to us what we mean by what? Attributes. Remember I said when you are speaking HTML, you will often talk about tags and
Yes.
attributes. When you are speaking CSS, you will now be talking about um, property, selector, value. Are you getting it? Now, this
Yes.
attribute, in case you have not noted it, you can write it down. Attributes or HTML attributes provide additional information. HTML attribute provide additional information. HTML attribute provide additional what? Information about the HTML element or tag. For example, the SRC that we have here, the auth that we have here, the width that we have here, the height that we have here, they are all attributes. In other words, the main tag is img. This is the main tag. Now, this is the main tag. So what is this src doing? This is providing additional information about this tag. This is providing the file paths where the image should be cut from to display to users whenever the user gets to this page. That is what you are seeing here. This is another attribute providing another information about this same tag, telling us that in case this image could not display, what will the user see? The user will see what? So I'm just using that to explain attributes. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, but there are some HTML tags that doesn't come with attributes. You have to manually in case you want it. Like this H1 now does not have any other word attribute. That does not mean that it does not exist. These ones that came by default, they are mandatory what? Attribute. They are attribute that you cannot do without. Just imagine you want to add image to your web page without this attribute. How possible? How will you be able to what? To reference the image. That is why it came by default. But this one, they can be added. So just take note of it that attributes, there are some HTML elements that comes with what? Attributes, while there are some that doesn't come with the attribute by default. But that does not mean that those ones that doesn't come with attribute by default cannot use attributes depending on what you want to do, like you are going to see me doing on this H1. Is that point clear first? So
Yes, sir.
in summary, what is the take home here? That when you are speaking CSS inline, look at the word inline. That is what? This is the HTML element, and I want to color it red. So what I'm saying is that instead of me coming here to write the CSS here, in that same line where I have the HTML, I want to write the CSS. That is, you are writing the CSS directly inside what? The HTML what? Element, but you must acknowledge CSS. And how do you do that? Look at it. This element has what? The opening section and the what? The closing.
Closing
There is
section.
no operation that will be carried out that will involve the closing section. Every other things that goes on will only affect what? Or within what? The opening section. So which means
Section.
that if I want to communicate inline CSS, where should I create or activate the style attribute that brings CSS presence in that HTML element? It is in the what? The opening section. And there's a logic. You have to go in there, make sure that your cursor is blinking just like the way it's blinking now, and then you space first like this. You must space so that it doesn't see it as if you are writing it together with the word, the H1. So there should be
The
space.
H1.
How the HTML knows that, oh, you want to bring an attribute. Once you have space, you type style. So you can see that what, as soon as you type that style, this style is an attribute that you are using to acknowledge or administer CSS inside that element directly. That is why it is called what? Inline what? CSS. Am I communicating?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Good. Now, attribute comes in pairs, like I've told you. Attribute, we have the name part, and then we have the value part. The value part is always quoted. Now, the value part, that is where you will now nest the CSS property, like we did the other time, color. You now bring in the color. Then remember the syntax. You now have put the value, let's say what? Red. So if I go
Red.
back to the front end now, did it work? Yes, it worked.
Yes. Yes.
Now, which means if I am asked as a developer that how did you communicated this red to this HTML content? I will say what? I use inline what? CSS. Why? Because I wrote the CSS directly inside the element on the same what? Line. Is
Nine.
that clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is one of the method out of the three methods. But you know what? Write this note. The inline method is not the best practice. The
Deep.
inline, yes, the inline CSS addition method is not the best practice. The reason is that it make debugging difficult. I'm going to prove it to you. So, but that doesn't mean that there will not be a scenario where we will know where we use it. As we go with the coding, as you get mature in the daily bit as we are going, you understand the instances where you can choose to consider inline against what other. But professionally, I am telling you that what the inline is not the best method. Why? Because it made debugging difficult. What is debugging? Debugging is the art of looking for where a problem within your code is and providing what solution. So, like I told us from the beginning, that we should always know that every in programming there are challenges that will arise. It is not every time you write programming code and they work the way you wanted them to work. There are times that you write program to display A, the program will display B. As a developer, you need to develop critical skills on how to look very well to know where the problem is. So why we say this one is not recommended is this. For example, if I'm having issue, maybe something is not working, because I'm writing all of them on the same line, I will not be able to know which one is even causing the problem. Is it this or this? So I will now start suspecting the CSS, suspecting the HTML. But meanwhile, if I have written them separately, it will be easier for me to comment one off
Detect.
and then look at the other one. But now, because they are in the same line, it is very difficult for you. What you can do here now is to turn off, is to delete this one and then check only the HTML, then bring it back. But if they are written separately, you can just comment the CSS, then bring it back. Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So that is the reason why the inline is not the best practice. So what we did here was not inline CSS, was using what? An attribute that could width and height the element. So long you did not use style to introduce it, it is not CSS. It was done solely in HTML, like this height and width. Now, let's quickly talk about the next. So what I would like you to do is to write the whole of this line the way it is so that you can know the syntax in the future in case you forget. Write this, only this line, then write this style, this color like this, the way it is, just for you to know, oh, if I'm to write inline CSS, this is the format. Are you done doing that or I should continue?
Let me do that.
Just let me know once that is ready. Are we together? Are you done writing?
Yes, sir.
Can I proceed?
No. That's, okay. I'm done.
All right. So I would like you to share your screen and use the inline. to style that heading. So you delete the one you did before and then use the inline. So let's quickly do that. Share your screen quickly.
I've already wrote that here, so
Okay,
I
all right.
think
You have to remove the
I should.
other one. You have to remove the other one. Though you are using the same color, you may not notice the conflict. But if you are using different color, it will absorb the inline on before the internal. All right, so you can see that the red is still there, right? Which is to confirm
Okay,
that
let me use another color then.
so you have already.
Let me use another color.
Okay, let's say blue. You can type blue. You can type blue. Mhm. So you can see that it has reflected, right? Show us the front end. Let's see it. I've seen it behind. All right.
Yes.
Good. All right. Now let's quickly continue. Let's continue. You can stop sharing. Now let's look at the next method. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this. So the next CSS method is what we call internal. What we call what? Internal. Are you with me? Internal
So
CSS addition. Internal CSS addition. Sure, you are writing this down.
yes, sir. Internal CSS addition.
Addition. Internal CSS what? Addition.
Addition.
Now, how do we define this? From the word internal, just write it down. Adding CSS internal means to create CSS file within the HTML document in the head section. That was that one that we used the other time. So when you come to the head, that is what? Creating CSS file within the HTML document, but in the head section. For example, now you see this is the head section. This is where the head starts, and this is where it ends. All right. So you style. Remember that note with style tag. With style tag. So anytime you want to communicate CSS within the head section of that HTML document, you have to introduce it with what? This tag. So this is not an attribute. When it was declared inside the H1, like this,
Yeah.
it was called what? Attribute. But when you open it like this, it's a tag. All right, so let's take note of them. So it's a tag. So now, so this is what it takes for you to write CSS internal. Internal. So this one is recommended. Some programmers uses this, but generally the best practice is the last one we are going to look at. So once you have declared this particular tag, it means you are saying that within this HTML file, this part is for writing CSS. Whatever I write inside that style tag is to be read as what? CSS scripts, not HTML. Did you understand that?
Yes.
So from here, this is where the concept of selector comes in. If you observe very well, when we wrote the CSS inside the H1, we did not emphasize on selector because there is no point because we are writing it inside it. So there's no issue of identification. But now that you are writing, look at where the element is. Look at where you want to write your CSS, which means that there should be a way of you specifically what? Selecting element here. So this is where the selector aspect comes in. So here, once you have created that tag, you start by selecting the element. Let's say I want to select the H1. I'll press that, then open the curly bracket. Then I will now declare what? The CSS properties inside. All right. So here now we are going to go beyond one property. So the first one is, let's say what? Blue. So I go back to the front end to check I have it updated. So the second property I want to write is I want to move this particular write-up to the center of the page. Like I told us the other time that it is the appearance that you want that will determine which of the CSS property to call. Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Good. So these properties are not just involved like that. You involve them based on certain appearance, certain display you want. Right now, I want to change the display, not the appearance now, because the appearance is the blue color. Now is the display. Where is position? I want to change it from there to another word, position, the center. So that means that I need to look for another CSS property that can move text horizontally. So you see this semicolon is what shows the end of the previous CSS property. So you come outside it and press enter. You are still within the selector. So whatever CSS you are writing here means that what you are still communicating that to what? To this element. So you now say, okay, you look for that property. Property is what? Align. Align item. Align, sorry, test what? Align. That is a property. Test align, because that has to do with what? Alignment. So you now select center. So if I go back to the front end now, you see that what? I have moved the text from what? The left
From the
to
left
what?
side to
Center.
the center.
Good. Another thing again I want to achieve is that, okay, I want it to be slanted like italic. That will now call for another CSS property. So as a programmer, a web programmer that understands that claim he or she can speak CSS, the moment you need an appearance, you look for the CSS property to what? To match it. So now if I come here now, I select what? I will not think, okay, what do I want to achieve? I want the text to slant. Okay, that is what? Font. That is font. That is font style. Font style. And what I want is what? Italic. Now, if you go back now, what did you notice? Did you notice any difference? It's slanted.
Yes, sir.
Good. Now,
Yes.
all these appearance should be prioritized based on how they are going to give users experience, good experience. You cannot just wake up and say, slanting this text is better. You ask yourself, will it make my web page more user-friendly? Will it appeal better to users than the way it was standing at an angle of 90? So if your answer within you is, I prefer a standing, you leave it there. So there is no force here. You are the one to be doing your brain calculation, knowing that you are building this website for users and you are considering how they will be pleased. So you don't build it because you personally, because definitely nobody wants to discredit himself or herself. You know, you always say you are good. So, but you go outside your way and say, okay, if I'm good, will it be good to someone else? You have audience that you are targeting with the website. So now another thing I want to do is that I feel that the space between the letters should, since I'm leaving the whole of this space for the header, I want some gap. Are you with me? I want some gap between the alphabets. I want to space between G and I. So that will now call for another CSS property. All these CSS you are speaking them with what method, sir? What method are you using? Internal. Internal. Are you with me?
Internal.
Good.
Okay.
Internal. Good. Now, you can see the way I'm able to arrange my code. If I'm using inline, everything, the line will be so long, I cannot break it.
Yes.
See,
Yes, sir.
that is one reason why I discourage the other one. Now, I want to create space between the alphabet. So I will say what? Character spacing. Sorry, letter spacing. Letter spacing. So letter spacing. Letter spacing. Then you specify the unit, which could be in pixel, which could be in inches. So, but I prefer using pixel. So I will say, okay, I want 10 pixel space. So if I go back to the front end now, you check what happened. Do you notice any difference?
Yes, sir.
So you can now you ask yourself, this appearance and the previous one, which one is better to users? Which one will actually give user better presentation? I prefer the
Visual.
good because there is enough space. So there's no point
Yes.
of what jam packing what the whole thing there.
Yes. It look more as a heading.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is for that. So I have just explained what internal. So I want you to go to your note, write this area that, write example under the internal that you have written that note. Copy this as an example. Only the area that I highlighted, the structure the way it is quickly. Just to back, you just continue. Pass with the writing so that we can close with the external.
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Now let's quickly look at the last one for this section. I just want us to understand how to use the 3 CSS methods. Right? So the last one is the last one. So I'm going to clear this. Since we are done with this particular method, I'm going to clear this. So the last one is what we call the external. I hope you are writing. External
Yes.
CSS addition. External CSS addition. External CSS addition. So what do we mean by external CSS addition? As the name implies, external, right? This simply means that the CSS file and the HTML file are totally separated. That is, they are written in different files. So internal, the file, the CSS is communicated directly to the element within the same HTML file. While internal, the CSS is also communicated to the element, but what? In the head section. External, the CSS file are not even located within the HTML file at all. They are totally separated. I hope you get that differentiation. Did you understand it?
You said
Did you
This
understand?
simply means
I said
this simply
meaning
means
that what the CSS file and the HTML file are totally separated. They are totally separated, which means the CSS file and the HTML file are totally what? Separated. Are you with me?
yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's go there. Now, it means that that is the reason why we created this folder. You see that all this while I'm styling, I've not involved this folder. So when you create this folder, or when we created this folder for the beginning, we have an intention of using what? External what? CSS. So which means we are saying that we have to create a file here. So you come here, make sure that that arrow is facing down, indicating that you are now in what? That folder. Then create a file, then name that file. Let's say the page you want to use the properties to style. Let's say index, but this time around, it's not going to be index HTML. It's not be index CSS. So you see the extension now. This is the global icon of CSS, this hash. Why this is the global icon for what? Tag HTML.
HTML.
So once I click outside, just like the way I taught you how to create a HTML file, once you have written the name and the extension which define the language you are using, you click outside, you see that what? Automatically. So this file can only be accessed when you open up what? The CSS folder. All right? Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Good. So
Yes, sir.
now, because they are far away from each other, you have to what? Connect them. You have to link them. Note it down. Note it down. Because the two files are separated, therefore, they must be linked. Therefore, they must be what? Linked. You must connect them. All right? For visibility.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't link them, for example, now, if I come here now, I go to the front end now, you see that what? I've deleted the one I did through the inline, sorry, the internal. Now, I want to give this test red now. Let's assume that we have not bothered linking. We have not bothered linking. And I come here and say H1, just like the way we selected it. Open your declaration bracket and then type a color. And then let's say what? The same blue. So if I go to the front end now, you will notice that what? Nothing has happened. Are you with me? Nothing has
Yes,
happened.
sir.
Now, the reason why nothing has happened because at the moment, this file and this file, they are not connected. So the CSS is written, but it's looking for the element, no visibility. So let's quickly look at the steps on how to connect these two files. So whenever you are working with the external CSS, you must take another step to link them after you have created the two separate what? Files. So how do we connect them before we come to the conclusion? How do we connect these two files? You go to the HTML elements. You don't connect from CSS. You connect HTML to the CSS. And once you are back here, you go to that head section and type link like this and press enter. It will generate what? This line of code. So from here, you see this href means what? Hyper reference, which means the destination. Where am I connecting this file to? Remember that that file was created in what? CSS folder, right? So how do you reference that?
Yes.
How do you reference that file that is inside CSS? You go inside the href attribute, the value section, the quotation. You press your forward slash. That will automatically call out your file structure, telling you that in your root file or in your root directory, you have CSS, you have image, you have this. Where are you going? Where do you think we should go? Is it here or here?
CSS.
CSS. Now you can now find the file and then you click.
CS.
So if I now go back to the front end now, how far is it connecting now? Perfect. It's connecting. So the moment I link them, the CSS started what? Communicating. So now going forward, going forward now, since
Hello?
can you hear me?
The network is breaking.
Okay, just confirm if it's okay now.
Your network is breaking. Your network is breaking.
Let me
Your
switch.
network is breaking.
Let me switch.
Is it okay now?
Is it okay now? Is it okay? I wanted to switch.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if it is okay, now I was showing you that now you can see that what the CSS we initially wrote that wasn't working because then we have not connected the two files. It's now working. So which means that we have connected what?
Yeah.
It's the CSS. Now, going forward now, each time I want to talk to any element here, for example, now I want to talk to, okay, I still want to talk to the H1. I will just be doing that from the external file. So I will say, okay, test align like we did the other time. I will say what? Center. So if I go back now, I check. So whatever CSS I'm writing in that external file is now applying because the two files are what? Visible. I hope you are getting me. Is
Yes,
this
sir.
in? Okay. Now, in case I want to do that letter spacing that we did the other time, so I will just say what? Letter spacing 10 PS. So as you can see, so if I come here, you see that what? Everything is working perfectly. Now, let's select another element. I want to verify if my voice is stable first. Are you still hearing me well?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, so now I want to style this because you are going to style this one as your assignment. I want to style the picture. Now we are using this. Now look at this. The image, the moment you want to style another element, you have to start with another selector. You have to come back here and say, okay, how do you want to select this image? Okay, the tag name, the tag name. So in our next class, write it down that I said that I'm going to teach us with another way of selecting elements using ID and class. But today we are learning with what? Using their tag name direct, because in a situation where you have like 2H1, let's say you have another heading created with the same word H1, but with different word content. Whatever you
Each
type,
one. Yes.
you say that what any other H1 that you create is automatically taking the appearance of what the initial H1. Meanwhile, you want this one to have different color. So these are the kind of situation whereby you can use internal if you are smart. You can just use internal and say what color. So this will stop it taking the previous one. But in our next class, we are going to emphasize on better way of selecting elements using their ID and class. But today we are using their tag name. I just want you to take note of that so that you can remind me in the next class. So now we want to talk to the image itself, the image, which is another element entirely. And we are going to select it with the name of the tag.
What did you say we should?
I said in the next class, we look at other
What did you say we are going to?
CSS selector, other CSS selector, other CSS selector like ID and class. Just write it that way. Once you remind me this, I'll understand what you are talking about. There is no way that I will not even remember because I will continue styling elements and will run into that challenge of having two the same elements in a page. I will want to style them what differently. So that will bring in the aspect of class and ID. But for now, we are styling with what? Tag names. So I want to style this image. So let's assume that this width that we have done here before, now that we understand CSS, it shouldn't be done here. So I only show you them because then we are here to discuss CSS. Now I want to style this image. So I'll come here. I'll come outside this. You see the way I step out now, which shows that at the moment I'm talking to a different element. Are you with me? I'm talking to what? A different element, not that same one. So I will use
Yes, sir.
comment. I will use comment. Now you can see this is the comment notation in CSS. Look at HTML comment sign. That same slash, hold control and slash that will produce it. Look at the sign of HTML comment. In CSS, this is how
Yes.
you have it. Was the same control and what? Forward slash. So now, why am I bringing comment? Because that is how I want us to be working. When you are done styling an element, you want to talk to another word, use comment to explain that section. So which means that I am styling the image tag. So when next I open this code, I know, oh, whatever code that comes under this, that is where I was speaking to what? A particular element. Did you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now,
Yes, sir.
so I'll select the image as what? IMG and then open the CSS bracket. So the first thing is the common CSS property for talking to images are width, because image is just like a container. It's like a bus. So width, I will say, okay, I want the width of the image to be 500 PS. So you should be writing all this PS. So if I go back to the front end and check, you can see that what I have been able to what? To resize the image now, and it's looking what? Better. I hope you are following. Now let's also
Yes,
add
sir.
height to it. The height proportion should be considered wisely. There is a way image width size will go off or far higher than the width or the height that the image will be disfigured. So you need to avoid that. For example, now we give the image width 500. You cannot say height 100. That is totally wrong. If you check it now, you see that what? The image is shrink. Can you see it? So these are the things you need to consider as a developer. Use the same proportion or equivalent proportion. So if I'm giving this one 500, if I give this one 350, I'll check the appearance. I think it's okay. 350 is okay. That is. Now, the next thing I want to do to this image is that I want to push this image. I want to push it to, from the left-hand side. I want to push it from the left-hand side. So that will bring in what we call margin. Margin. Margin is the space between one element and the other from the outside. We are still going to break down all this in our subsequent what? Classes. So now I will say what? Margin. I need to specify space because margin has four sides. What we are typically saying is that this is the image. And the image is inside what? The body tag. This is how it look like now. So you have lesser space here, you have more space here, and you want this image to shift. So this one here, the space between this and the body tag from the outside is called what? Top margin. Why the space here? The space here is what? Left margin. Like I said, we are still going to be talking more of this. Why here is what? Right margin.
Margin.
Why bottom here is what? Bottom what? Margin. Now, if I say margin only, and I say like 10, it will give all of them 10, 10, 10, 10. But right now, the challenge we have is that we just want to move only on one side, not from all the side. So which is what? Margin left. So what I'm going
Yes,
to
sir.
do now is to quickly say what? Margin what? Left, not just what? Margin. I'll say, okay, I want to push it by 30 PS. 30 PS, so I'll go to the front end and check to know if there is any movement. You can see it move. So if I want the movement to be obvious, make it percentage. Use percentage instead of percent. Let's say what? 30 what? Percentage, shift and 5. So if I go back to the front end now, you see what? It move what? Reasonably. Are you with me? So this is the
Yes,
layout
sir.
that I talked about that CSS can resolve. It's not just appearance, it's also determine what? The presentation, the placement, the layout. Now, the last thing I want to show before we before we stop this class is I want the image to be a round image, like a circular image, because all this, you go and watch the video and update your website, your assignment. I'm not styling the P tag, but your own, you style the P tag, give it different size, different color, and then you style the image as well. So the last property I want to show us is how to make the image what? Round. Not only image, anything that has to do with container. If I want to make it round, what do I do? Which CSS property do I need? You say what? Border. Border what? Radius. Border radius, I will say what? Half of the width of that element. The current width is what? 500, right? So I will say what? Half of 500,
500, yes.
250 PS. This is one logic.
250.
This is one logic that we normally use. You can see that the image is what? Round, but it's not perfectly round, but depending on the what, the proportion of the width and the height. So if you want to get it faster, just say what? 50%, which is a way of also communicating the half of it. So if I go back there now, you can see that what is more what? Cover now is perfect cycle. Because the edge is white, that's why we are not seeing it. So if I add border now to this now so that you can see very well, so I will just add what? Ordinary border, not with radius, to give me the outline. So I will say border, let the line thickness should be 2 PS, then the line style should be solid. All these things, the more I use them, you get used to them. The color should be red. So if I go back to the front end now, you see that what? You can see the shape of what? The image very well. I don't know if all that I've explained so far
Yeah.
is clear. Is everything okay? Because this is where I'm going to stop. I don't want to go further than this so that you can go and digest this. Web development
The
programming,
next,
a gradual process. You bite it bit by
all
bit,
right, so
bit by
your,
bit, bit by bit. You have question?
your network
Your network is breaking.
has really, I
Can
can
you?
still follow
Okay. All right.
little.
So just a quick one. If you don't mind, can you show your picture and tell the world just a kind of share your experience with Digital Z Hub, recommend whether you can recommend it for. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.